Welcome to Symposia Soundbites, hosted by Balchem. I'm Andy Vance with Feedstuffs. We're at the Cornell Dairy Nutrition Conference where Balchem hosted a pre-conference symposia. One of the speakers was a fellow Buckeye, Dr. Mike Van Amburgh. Dr. Mike, when you describe your presentation to the group at the symposium, if you had to do it in under 60 seconds, what would you say you talked about?
I think what I really tried to focus on is what are the obstacles that most nutritionists face in reducing the amount of unusable nitrogen in a diet for a lactating dairy cow, and then, once we get rid of that excess nitrogen, how do we bring in the more useful nutrients like amino acids and other carbohydrates and things like that to fill the space to make the cow more productive?
Well, and that's a big part of the puzzle, is how do we make the cow more productive? The other part of it is we're wasting money, and it's not great for the environment if we're excreting a whole bunch of nitrogen either, right?
Right. Well, what's one of our biggest problems is that if you look at most dairy farms right now, we're excreting more nitrogen in the manure than we are excreting in milk, and it'd be really good if we could get that reversed, because that's how we're going to improve both our environmental sustainability and also our profitability.
What does the data tell us? What does your research tell us if we're talking to nutritionists about how we go about making that magic happen?
Well, I think it takes, I think the hard part is that it takes more intensive evaluation of groups of cattle than what we are probably been willing to pay for right now, so we can actually diagnose where those cows are at relative to their intake excesses and things like that, and do a better job meeting their requirements.
It's hard to diagnose the problem from a single sample in the bulk tank, in other words.
It is really hard to do that. Right? You got a herd with 2,000 or 3,000 cows, you really don't know who's causing the problem. You're just trying to solve a single sample. Not much diagnostics can go on. You have no variation.
How granular do you have to get? I mean, what's the trade-off between, you talk about cost and getting actionable data?
Well, I don't think you have to work that hard. I think that's probably the misconception. You can be academic and use a sampling technique if you want to, or you just say, hey, I got 200 cow pens. Once a month or once every other month, I've got to take 30 to 40 cows out of that pen, and I've got to get an analysis on their milk so I can understand where those particular cows at. That would be representative of the pen, and then you can make different decisions.
If you were talking to a nutritionist out in the field, so to speak, and you wanted to give them one takeaway, this is the thing that you hoped every participant in the symposium wrote down from your talk, what would it be?
Probably, that's a tough question. Probably, and it's the hardest one, is that before you make any change in your diet formulation, are the cows and your current formulation agreeing with each other, right? Because if they don't agree with each other, then you really don't know what the most limiting nutrient is or what's really causing the problem, so you don't know what to change. That's probably it.
Dr. Mike Van Amburgh with Cornell University, one of the speakers at Balchem's pre-conference symposium at the Cornell Dairy Nutrition Conference. For Symposia Soundbites, I'm Andy Vance with Feedstuffs.